It's Thanksgiving weekend, and time to give thanks for the autumn sale on Steam and give yourself some games that have some hecking good deals. In this video, I'll take you through 10 strategy, simulation, and tactical games on sale right now that I believe are 100% worth taking advantage of. And if you like these types of videos, help push to the algorithm gods by giving it a like, subscribing to the channel, and commenting on what games you'll buy on this list or others you've seen on Steam during the sale. Let's dive in, starting with Victoria 3. Currently a 50% off base game for $25. Leading off with Paradox's most recent grand strategy releases, I implore you to largely ignore the mixed review rating on this one, as most of the negativity revolves around launch, with customer game expectation different from what the developers made clear the game would be centered on. Victoria 3 is a deep economic simulation game set in the 1830s that sees you as the head of a country as you seek to rise the ranks in economic dominance. Each country in the game has their own population to manage, taking consideration into their culture, religion, economic status, and political clout of every single one of them. You'll construct buildings that will, hopefully, boost your own country's GDP while simultaneously improving your people's quality of life, while also balancing the politicking of various interest groups who all have their own agendas and sway over the government. These interest groups also affect your ability to pass laws that could progress or regress the state of your country. Thus, the management of them is a crucial aspect to consider. Politics are not only internal. There's a whole world out there to interact with, so whether it's batting pretty eyes at the larger nations to gain some favor and pray for protection, or tacking on more taxes to your vassal, or backing a smaller nation that puts a buffer between you and your rival, the diplomatic actions are vast and shape the political scene on a world scale quite nicely. And when diplomacy fails, as it does, diplomacy at the end of a gun is always an option. If you're in economic simulation games and want to rule an entire country while doing it, I highly recommend this one, and with the Pivot of Empire DLC having just launched, it's a perfect time to take on the game and discover just how good you are at managing an entire country. Next up, Songs of Conquest at 60% off for just $14. Songs of Conquest is a modern turn-based strategy hearkening to the glory days of Heroes of Might and Magic, as you lead powerful magicians called wielders and venture into the unknown lands outside of your small empire. Having played Heroes of Might and Magic, as well as the Disciple series as a kid, this incredibly well-designed 2.5D pixel art drew me in, and the well laid out mechanics kept me there. In Songs of Conquest, you'll balance kingdom expansion with army management as your wielders explore a wide variety of maps with contrasting biomes to take on diverse enemies and gather loot to send back to HQ. There, you'll work on your empire building by managing these resources, expanding your buildings, and researching new tech that allows you to build new units, improve current ones, or help to further expand your empire. The best part, you can do all of this however you want, catering to your playstyle regardless of the faction you choose. Battles are where the true fun lies for me though. Taking place on a hex grid style battlefield, you'll use magic, brute strength, and well thought out strategies to take on the enemy forces. Here, you can combine troop types for attack bonuses, gather magic resources to craft powerful spells, and utilize the terrain height to your advantage as you rain down carnage against several different factions, each with their own units, combos, and magic spells. Songs of Conquest has come a long way since its launch, and with a new faction on the horizon, I can recommend diving into this one for under $20. Next, we take a step deep into the past with Total War Attila at 75% for just $11 base game. It's pretty much a given on this channel that I'll bring up Attila during a sale, as it's hands down my favorite Total War game in the franchise and is directly responsible for the success of Total War Warhammer in many ways. Total War Attila is set during the end of the Western Roman Empire and the brief rise of the self-proclaimed Scourge of God, Attila. Playing as one of several factions in the game across a range of cultures, you'll have to lay down a strong economic foundation during a time when the climate drastically changes that will support massive armies you'll use to expand your own lands, or use to fend off those pesky horse archers that are bound to end up on your doorstep. Attila's setting around the fall of an empire, rather than the start, is what brings a good deal of uniqueness to the franchise of Total War. Playing the hellscape that is the Western Roman Empire provides a great challenge to Total War veterans, while playing as any other faction around them opens up opportunities to take advantage of the impending doom and chaos. Playing as any horde faction sets you up with choosing between nomadism or picking a place to settle down during these tumultuous times. And of course, as the Huns, you can have a blast playing pin the arrow on the soldier with your horse archer spam. If that weren't enough to convince you, Total War Attila has tons of overhaul mods that should satiate anyone's Total War desires for alternate timelines, dives into the medieval era, or even some fantasy settings. For $11, you need to take advantage of this sale and nab you the best Total War game. If making real-time strategic decisions in the moment isn't for you, you should check out Mechabellum, currently at 25% for a simple $11 as well. Mechabellum is a tactical auto-battler game, with the objective to win by outthinking your opponent using a customized mechanized army. First, you'll choose from a variety of mechs, each with unique abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. Units range from smaller and weaker units that come in larger packs, to glass cannon snipers, or massive mechs that can take tons of damage while fighting. These mechs can be upgraded and customized with different equipment and attributes to suit your strategy. You'll position your units on a grid-like battlefield, deciding the best formation and positioning to maximize their chances of victory. With factors like range of attack and speed, positioning is crucial, as you wouldn't necessarily want your fast units to reach the enemy well in advance of their slower but more powerful counterparts. Fights are automatic, meaning you have no control over what happens once you press the ready button, and their performance depends on your placement, strategy, and of course, the enemy who's doing the same thing. There is an element of resource management to the game as well, as you receive an increasing amount of supplies each turn, used to purchase more units, unlock new ones, or upgrade current ones with new abilities that can change the playing field at any time. Mechabellum is a long-form planning strategy game. It makes for some incredibly fun battles, like turning a fast-running rhino into a kamikaze weapon, with some equally frustrating ones as someone's Zerg swarms you with high-level crawlers. In any case, with almost 200 hours in the game thus far, I can definitely recommend you take this one on. Next up, we go to space with IXION, set at 50% off for $18. In this survival city builder in space, you take on the role of a commander on the massive space station Tycoon, where a simple test of the jump drive goes horribly wrong in the absolute worst of ways, and now you're humanity's last hope for survival. IXION has several of the classic mechanics of any survival city builder, starting with ship management. As commander, it's your role to build, maintain, and upgrade the station through the game. You'll need housing for its people, food to feed them, factories to construct refined goods, and various entertainment to keep their minds off the fact they may literally be no one else alive in the universe. The space station itself will need a constant maintenance to keep from falling apart, further providing reasons for the management of these buildings. Resource management is a bit different from the norm here though, and one of the reasons IXION stands out. Since you'll be traveling through space across different systems, most resource extraction starts by sending probes to look for resources based on elemental signatures, drilling said elements out of these asteroids, sending them home, and then refining them in-house. Being able to prioritize which resources gets drilled and extracted helps to somewhat automate the process for sure, but still requires the human touch to work at its most efficient. On top of that is survival and crisis management. The Tycoon has limited space in the sector you start out in, meaning you'll need to expand in the other sectors as you play. You can't build the exact same buildings in every sector, so you'll need to find optimal ways to specialize, in turn figuring out the logistics of subsidizing the resources that may be lacking. An industrial sector may not be able to produce food, so figuring out how to bring it from 2 sectors away may be challenging. The crises don't stop there. Power management and failure could mean the shutdown of the entire station, potentially freezing out your population. Discontent can shut down entire sectors as riots pop up, or food and water shortages could cause starvation. And that's not including any of the story narratives. Speaking of, one of the absolute best parts of IXION is its story and narration, full of some amazing twists and turns, and things that may make you say, what the, without a doubt. IXION's story is one of the best in terms of the strategy simulation genre, and the path it takes you on alone is worth this price of admission. You'll enjoy IXION, especially at this discounted price. The next one is actually made by the same developers of IXION, and it's Warhammer 40k Mechanicus at 80% off for just $6. Mechanicus is always going to be a top tier choice that I recommend for any strategy gamer, especially with the second one on the horizon, And whether you're an expert in the lore of Warhammer 40k, or like Jon Snow, you know nothing. This turn-based tactics and management game brings two factions that don't see represented too often across the universe. First are the Adeptus Mechanicus, a machine-worshipping people who are so fanatical they've sacrificed most of their humanity for the benefits that machines can offer, and the Necrons, a culmination of an ancient empire immortalized in these completely robotic beings. There's a lot going on with Mechanicus, but in no way is that a negative statement. First is team management, where you'll take charge of fellow Adeptus Mechanicus humans, specializing them, managing their disciplines, and ensuring that they survive the brutal campaign as you progress. Then there's the dungeon crawling side of things, where you, crawl through ancient tombs of Necrons, coming across bits of lore, events that need solving, and uncovering any secrets therein. The kicker, the longer you stay in these tombs, the more difficult the battles become, forcing you to balance a need to discover versus a need to keep your squad alive in ever-increasingly intense battles. Which leads to the last, and my favorite part of the game, turn-based battles. Battles in Mechanicus are far less about luck and more about positioning your own men perfectly to set up ambushes or tackle the enemy, while keeping your own men out of harm's way. There are no hit chances like in other tactics games, which makes positioning and skill management all the more important. Plus, you get to not only see the prowess of what the Adeptus Mechanicus can do, but the Necrons pull out some pretty cool units as well. Mechanicus also has a great story to go along with all the above, and while it's not full of twists and turns like IXION, it's still one that will get you sucked in, especially if you are not too familiar with the franchise. If you're looking for a game to explore the Warhammer 40k universe with, or to prepare for the second one, this will give you a solid slice of lesser known factions, which is always great. Or if you're just down for an engaging turn-based tactical game, this one is absolutely for you. It's time to go way back in time to Prehistoric Kingdom, 25% off at $23. Prehistoric Kingdom is a park management game where you'll create the Jurassic Park of your dreams in ways that the actual Jurassic World Evolution games just cannot compete. Think of it almost like Planet Zoo, but with dinos. Here, you'll create a park full of dinosaurs and Ice Age mammals from across different eras, catering to their needs for a correct biome, a water balance ratio, crowding factors inside their paddocks, all while making them accessible to your guests. As cash flow comes in, you'll need to send out excavation teams to discover new species or variations of the same ones that will add unique varieties throughout your park. Guest needs are important too, as they get hungry, thirsty, tired, and, they need to relieve themselves. Catering to these needs will result in happier guests, helping to raise your park rating to attract more peeps. All of this is pretty standard for a game like this. However, the real shine comes in customized assets. Not only can you build daggum near anything you put your mind to using individual pieces, but there are several themes you can build around, pre-built or custom, that add a ton of flavor to your park. A coastal biome might call for a tiki bar beach theme, while your desert region has an eastern themed market food court. Prehistoric Kingdom has been in early access for quite a while now, and it's actually coming along very steadily with big updates, recently adding employees to manage your restaurants, keepers to keep the paddocks clean, and runners to transport goods from warehouses to needs throughout the park. I can highly recommend Prehistoric Kingdom, and it's had several videos on the channel, one ongoing right now, so head over there to give it a watch, and if you dig it, take advantage of the sale. A heads up for these last three games. All three of these are Hooded Horse Games, a publishing company of which I am affiliated with. For full transparency's sake, this section is not sponsored by Hooded Horse in any way, nor am I being incentivized to put these games in here. It's simply a passion and love for them that they make this list. If you want to, feel free to check out the video in the description for a more comprehensive idea on just what this means. Anyways, on to our first, Against the Storm, currently at 50% off for $15. Against the Storm is a city building and roguelite strategy game set in a dark fantasy world where players must rebuild and manage settlements while facing constant threats from a storm that wipes the entire map every set amount of years. As the appointed viceroy of the Queen, it is your duty to explore the regions around the smoldering city and rebuild civilization in a world that never stops raining. As the viceroy, you'll need to establish cities and garner the Queen's favor in order to build up resources and rebuild said civilization. The failure to satiate the Queen before her patience runs out will result in you losing the time you spent on that settlement, pressing you to get more done before the storm wipes it all away. Against the Storm's roguelite elements is the game's biggest strong suit, Each settlement will be different, be it the biome you're in, the species you have available to use, the resources you can harvest, the buildings you can choose from, and the potential perks that you can acquire. Your choices will be largely driven by the species you have though. Each settlement only has 3 of the now 6 species in the game, and with each species having their own demands for happiness, housing, and job specialties, you'll want to find ways to ensure you can attain these, namely through the choices I just mentioned before. The really fun part is exploration and expansion within the settlement, where you'll have to dive into mysterious glades full of resources and potential negative events that will need to be taken care of before some nasty things happen, while combating the fact that the forest is basically alive and steadily grows to hate you the more forest you chop down for your settlement. If that weren't enough, it's always raining, and with various stages of rain come various positive or negative modifiers, meaning these different stages will see you, the player, taking different actions to make the most of the situation. This is an incredibly rough summary of the game, and if you'd like a more detailed video, head over to my Against the Storm review to get a much bigger picture. But, long story short, if you're a city builder player, you must have this game, and with the recent Keepers of the Stone DLC adding frogs as a new species, it is a must-have, especially at 50% off. Next up, Breachway, at 30% off for $14. If you're in the market for a roguelite deck builder in space, Breachway is a must-buy. As captain of an interstellar ship, you'll travel across solar systems using various types of ships, customizing your crew, loadouts, and building your deck of cards, while interacting with different factions and engaging in turn-based tactical combat. Starting with the range of ships available, including a brand new ship that literally just launched this week, each one starts with different loadouts. From a beginner-level laser cannon ship in the Arbalest, flat cannon Marauder, to the advanced railguns in the Lancer, the Firebrand, whose pyro attacks overheat your opponent, or the missile launcher heavy Avalanche. Whatever ship you choose comes with its own faction relations, something you'll want to keep in mind. The Marauder has fantastic relations with the Deadweights, and thus when you travel to one of their nodes, you'll have a positive interaction as they are the ones in control. Anywhere else though, pretty much guaranteed to engage in a negative event, be it battle or otherwise. As you engage in events throughout the system, especially in battles, you'll have the opportunity to acquire new cards for your deck and upgrade your ship with new modules, equipment, and even a better reactor, an essential for combat effectiveness. How you choose is largely up to you, and while you can certainly stay in your lane by only adding equipment catered to your ship's initial abilities, you are more than able to mix and match based on your playstyle, meaning your laser-focused Arbalest could have a railgun for heavy-hitting power, or your Avalanche could engage in flak attacks to quickly knock out shields, thus making your missiles more effective. And that leads to the battles themselves, which is obviously a huge part of the game, and my favorite due to its operation and graphic style. Battles are turn-based, where each card in your deck costs any number of your 3 resources to use. Your reactor levels not only determine how much of the resources you receive each turn, but you can modify those levels within each battle, meaning if you are wanting to lean on a certain resource more simply due to the cards in your hand, you can sacrifice production of one for the enhancement of the other. This makes each battle unique as you come across different ships with different strengths. Being able to modify what I'm producing in a battle is one of the bigger pieces to the deck builder puzzle that made me love this game. With the enemy working on a bit of a different battle mechanic, you'll be able to determine just what they'll be throwing at you and react accordingly during your turn. The battles in Breachway can be absolutely punishing at times, but with the roguelite run system, even if you die, you'll learn and adapt, being more ready to tackle the next run as you progress with your ship and unlock more starting modules to get your feet on solid ground. It's safe to say that Breachway is a great game and one I can easily recommend during this autumn sale. Last but in no way least, we have Old World at 75% off base game for just $10. Old World is a turn-based hex grid 4X title that combines civilization with something like Crusader Kings, where you're not only leading a nation of prosperity and influence, but you're also managing an entire dynasty of characters, from marriages to government appointments, pushing them as generals, diplomats, governors, or even purposefully leaving them out due to, well, inefficient character traits. This combination of strategy genre works fantastically and provides you with a depth that not many games can claim, especially in that civilization-minded genre. As the leader of your nation, you are in charge of not just empire building and not just family dynastic building, but managing the other 4 families of your nation as well. Each newly established or conquered city will be under a family's rule of your choosing, satiating that family while causing discontent with the other. You can choose to marry your kid into families, or appoint their head of household to government offices as a way to make them more content. You'll manage events from across your dynasty's characters and these families, choosing a response that could not just affect the family's opinion, but cost you resources, maybe result in an exiled character, or even cost you orders, limiting what you can do in a single turn. That's right, your leader has a certain number of actions, called orders, per turn, based on a myriad of factors, one of the biggest delineations away from Civ and bringing in a whole new level of strategy. Actions are used up by your workers to build up your empire, events with your characters, and movements by your army. So the question then becomes, how do you prioritize in, say, times of peace or in times of war? You may not be able to resolve a bit of political intrigue the way you wanted due to lack of resources or orders, resulting in a fallout with your son or daughter. Perhaps more time spent building on resource deposits instead of warmongering could have allowed you the ability to react appropriately. But maybe not though. The biggest twist, and my favorite part of the game, is that when your leader dies, and yes, they will die, you immediately switch to their heir and start ruling as them, dealing with the transition of power, and almost always starting with fewer orders than your previous leader left off with. Will you roll differently than your predecessor? I suppose it's time to find out. There is so much about this game and its several DLCs that suck me in time and time again, and I cannot recommend purchasing this game enough, especially for $10, and I will say this, the DLCs add some fantastic flavors as well, so definitely look into those. And that will do it for this autumn sale video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you found any of these games worthy of your purchase, or you just want to support the channel in general, feel free to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you ended up with in the comments section down below. Hope you all had a fantastic Thanksgiving if you celebrate it. This is Havoc, and I am out of here.